Hello and welcome to a special episode of Kaiju Curry House. I'm joined by my regular hosts, Alex and Paul, and you are listening to Joe. Tonight's topic is going to be Godzilla vs. Kong, the highly anticipated film for 2021. We're going to be giving our thoughts, some spoilers, but we're going to try and let you know when those are coming, folks. Gents, how are we doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
Excellent. Very, very good indeed. Joe, what have Kaiju been up to?
I have been watching Godzilla vs. Kong, amongst
What?
other things.
Crazy.
Yeah, it finally came out. Hot diggity dog. So that was an Americanism thrown in for you folks. But yeah, it's been great finally seeing this film. I have to say that I really enjoyed it. I'm one of the folks that did. I think that it was well done film, but we'll get into that a little bit more later on. Paul, what have Kaiju been up to? Give us some graboid goodness here, pal.
Oh, yeah, no graboid goodness, I'm afraid. I mean, the only thing that I've been meaning to mention a few times now on the episode, on the show, and I know you're both going to hate me for it, but I just feel like I should talk about Fortnite for a minute. What? Yeah, I know. Did either of you see the opening cinematic for Chapter 2, Season 6? Sorry, Season 2,
I know
Chapter
that
6?
Alien and Predator are in the new season.
Yes. So basically, there's a new cinematic. There's a cinematic to introduce
and
the
Ellen
new
Ripley.
season. And basically, you're following the main character Jonesy as he's running towards this big orb in the sky, which is it's called 0 Point, and there's all these portals from different dimensions there. And so he's running along through a battle, and you see a horde of xenomorph being taken out by not Ellen Ripley, by Sarah Connor, which is a bit strange. Then a wave of Terminators come, and a truck comes off the bridge and smashes them down, just like in Terminator 2. And Ellen Ripley pops out, and she's now killing xenomorphs and Terminators. And then as he carries on running, you see Predator, about the little 3 dots go on a man cat that he's about to kill. And it's just the amount of stuff, all these different franchises that have come in that aren't kid-friendly. They're all like 80s, 90s franchises, and yet they're in this game that is for a younger audience. And this whole season's gone primal now, so they've actually now got dinosaurs in it. And I'm wondering, are we going to see a Jurassic World crossover? I mean, it would make sense. If they've got aliens and Predator and Terminator, why not have the Indominus Rex loose on an island? And then does it get bigger and bigger? Are we going to see? Could we see Godzilla vs. Kong? I don't see why not.
I hear tell in one of the past seasons that they had, and I don't play Fortnite for anybody who's asking, so I apologize if I get it wrong. But in a past season, I think there was a giant monster versus a giant mech cinematic fight or something that you could watch from afar.
There was like
That's probably it.
Their interpretation of I guess, Voltron or a Megazord against their own original Kaiju. I wasn't really playing at that point, so I don't know too much, but it's definitely got bigger over time, this franchise. So I think this new cinematic was directed by the Russo brothers, who did Avengers, and I believe The Rock is now voicing a character in it. So it's pretty big.
There we go.
Fortnite is in Epic Games.
Epic Games, yeah.
Just double checking to make sure I understand, because I think there's an untapped audience here within the market, because I remember once when I was at school and some kid was chatting to me and said, "Sir, you do a podcast, don't you?" I said, "Oh yeah, it's released fortnightly." They went, "Fortnite!" And they lost the total shit over. I went, "No, it's a fortnightly. It's a bi-weekly podcast." Oh, I don't care about that. But maybe there's an in here. Maybe.
Well, that's it. It's absolutely
Let's
massive.
Just mention Fortnite a dozen times.
It's
the
biggest. It's the biggest thing. It makes billions. It's so big. And if they're getting aliens and Predator and Terminator, I mean, that's the kids that have been introduced to these franchises. Like, my son had no idea what Alien and Predator was, and then it's in Fortnite. Oh, Dad, can I watch the film? He didn't care about Star Wars. Then it appeared in And he's like, "Oh, I want to watch The Mandalorian."
I'm not too precious about what stuff we put in. If you know, it's all about the views. I mean, if I have to stop talking about It Follows, if you have to stop talking about Tremors, forget all that stuff. You know, if we have to talk about Fortnite to get people listening, then so be it. But
You've seen it here, folks. Alex is sold out first. He is
yeah,
the first host.
I'm gone. Yikes.
I just thought it's worth a mention because it's yeah.
But then I suppose Magic the Gathering, you know, for Ikoria, however you pronounce it. I mean, they had, you know, like a license for Godzilla stuff for a bit. I imagine huge multinational brands like this will occasionally dabble with stuff to see how it goes, won't they? That doesn't mean that they're going to be in it for the long haul, right?
Oh no, it can just be a one-off kind, just to try and draw a new audience in.
It's a gimmick, isn't it? Effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it'll work.
Right. Well, someone asked the question, then we'll crack on and start reviewing this film.
Alex, what have Kaiju been up to?
Right. Well, you know what? I'm surprised that neither of you guys have mentioned it. So I am going to drop a huge thanks to our friend, Mr. Tim Doyle, because yeah, all that. Yeah. Well, I am very, very grateful to Tim because arriving in the post recently was a copy of an original script for the Mighty Megalosaurus. That's what arrived for me. And there was another script, and there was it like some fake money for you, Paul?
It was, yeah. So it's an American like $100 bill, but with a dinosaur on that. It was obviously the currency used in the show Dinosaurs.
And like, this is a safe space, but it's a tricky situation when you have two scripts and a dollar note, and it's like, who do you give the script to? Because obviously, you know, the lawful good part of me was like, well, you give the two scripts to your friends. And no, I didn't do that.
That is what you should have done. Yeah.
That's what I should have done. Did I do that? No, I went, oh, thank you. That's mine now. And then I had to go, right, who do I give a dollar bill to? Who do I give the script to? And I remember just how excitable and enthusiastic Joe was talking about dinosaurs. So, yeah. There we go.
Yeah, I got the Switched at Birth script, and it was fantastic. I do remember that episode. I remember Mighty Megalosaurus. Yeah, it was fantastic talking with him. And listeners, if you get the chance, you can hear our conversation with him. And it was a load of fun talking with him about the show Dinosaurs.
Yeah. And other than that, things that have been happening on Twitter recently, because it's been really, really busy for Kaiju, and not just Godzilla vs. Kong. The fact that Hideaki Anno has announced that after doing Shin Godzilla, we know that Shin Ultraman's on the way. There's also going to be a Shin Kamen Rider. So my understanding is that Shin is just the kanji for new. Like, I think, but someone fact check me on that. I feel like I'm going to be called out by an expert, but, you know, please fact check me. I think Shin is just Japanese for new. And yeah, Hideaki Anno is just going absolutely mad. He's throwing out stuff with Shin all over it. So it looks like we're going to get lots of more tokusatsu from Hideaki Anno. So do check that out on Facebook. On their Twitter rather, but I'm sure it's on Facebook as well. Right. Okay. Joe, how many times have you seen Godzilla vs. Kong?
6, maybe more. I don't know.
When was this film released?
April 1st in the UK. I saw it the night before because someone was absolutely lovely and let me use their HBO Max account, and I got to see it via VPN. So that was really cool. But as soon as, you know, the next day rolled around, I just got it on Amazon and went for it. So that was a fun time. I had been waiting a long time for this, and via the nature of its release, I had an opportunity to binge it at home as much as I dared. So there we go.
So you have, in the space of 4 days, watched this film effectively a day, 1.5 viewings per day. You've seen this 6 times in 4 days.
Well, there are 4 kids here that, you know, like weren't aghast, you know, watching it as well. So
I guess not.
We had one viewing, which was my daughter, and we were waiting for the rest of the kids to arrive, and they arrived right at the end. And then naturally it was like, well, we want to see the beginning. Okay, then I'll humor you. So that's kind of the way that it went.
It's impressive, but do you know how many times I've watched Paw Patrol just today? It's more than you've seen.
You've turned it off. Wow. Is it still going? It's still going, isn't it?
It's just on loop. My life is just a constant cycle of Paw Patrol. I just kind of sway backwards and forwards. Paul, how many times have you seen this film now?
I've seen it twice now, which I think is a reasonable amount of times to see it.
So how are we going to approach this? Because we have two hosts that have seen this film multiple times, and we have myself, who is yet to join the party.
Well, I kind of want to go spoiler heavy and just work through the film, just work through from beginning to end. But then
how about we be nice
to
people? How about we be nice to people? We start this with no spoilers, and then in the end, we switch to spoilers for those who want to listen to it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, done. Right, so let's spend the first part of this episode spoiler-free. Second part, go in hard and heavy, spoilers.
There we go. Yeah. Fair enough.
Done. Right.
Done.
Okay. Spoiler-free, folks. Paul, what was your impression of this film? Go.
My impression... Now, let's start off and say I had not seen anything of this film before going into it. I had avoided pretty much all spoilers. I didn't even watch the trailer, so I didn't know which characters were returning. All I knew it was going to be Godzilla vs. Kong, and I wasn't excited because I wanted this to be an event rather than just me watching it at home alone. But all said and done, I really enjoyed my time. It was, I say, it's like a ride. It was a blast. I turned my phone off. I wasn't interrupted. I just watched it, had a great time, and then just I didn't really think much more about it. It was a great while it lasted, but nothing really memorable for me.
Wow.
Which might sound harsh, but I did really enjoy it, so I can't complain about it.
See, when I saw Kong Skull Island, that's kind of my take. It was like
yes,
it was a ride. Did it blow me away? No. Was it damn good fun? Yes. However, I've returned for repeated viewings of Kong Skull Island, and I've enjoyed it more on every review. So
okay.
I'm just wondering if it was like that for you. Go on, Joe. Have your space. How was it?
So I had a lot riding in this film. Family-wise, I've discussed this before in the podcast. I wanted it to be a certain way. And what I will say about Godzilla vs. Kong is it makes no attempt to be an intelligent film with a message. There's no heavy, dour, characters that are trying to explain casualties, scientific theory. All that malarkey is gone. They are just trying to get as much fun crammed into this film as possible. And I thought it was really refreshing. I think that a lot of science fiction films these days tend to focus a lot on the exposition, but not necessarily on the story that's in the film, particularly if they are science heavy, which the MonsterVerse endeavors to be in some points. But this film was really just about you understand the mythology, you know who these characters are, we know why you're here, let's just have fun with this. This movie was loud, big, dumb, absolutely fun. It was just fun. I can't say that it is a very deep piece of cinema. It doesn't go for that. It's not trying to be that. It's trying to be fun. So if you want to have a fun time, watch Godzilla vs. Kong. But I had a great time. I've had a great time watching it. It's been fantastic for me. I've wanted to see this rematch for ages now. So it gave me everything I wanted out of it.
So do you feel that it's followed in the same vein as Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2019? Do you think, because you're saying sort of it's not a particularly ethereal experience, but it's fun, and there's the assumption that you know the mythology, you know where the characters are coming from, because that, to me, sounds like a description of King of the Monsters.
No, it doesn't. King of the Monsters, it had something to say, King of the Monsters. It was trying to be an environmental message. It was trying to be a natural balance message, more so perhaps than Godzilla. which, you know, the whole let them fight, nature has an order, blah, blah, blah. That's in that film.
Mm.
But in King of the Monsters, Godzilla is out and out like the natural order. We're trying to, you know, make peace with nature. We're trying to support him. The end credits, the Titans are restoring ecosystems as they wander about the earth,
Yeah.
you know, blah, 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 blah. Although, unfortunately, like they dropped an oxygen destroyer in the middle of an ocean or, you know, Gulf, and then they just nuked Godzilla's face. You know, we're ending up feeling pro-nuclear there. So there's a lot of mixed garble in it. But as fun for me as King of the Monsters was, it was really nostalgia heavy and it was really targeting fans. And there was just so much crammed into it that it lost a lot of the subtleties that you could have with Godzilla or Kong Skull Island. I feel like just because it was meant to be such a spectacle that they lost out in a lot of like the wow, like the grandeur of these animals as they just tromp across. Like in Kong Skull Island and Godzilla particularly, like you see a lot from a human perspective, whereas in Godzilla King of the Monsters, you don't. And there's a lot of humor that's thrown in there that didn't always hit, or they're trying to be serious, or they're trying to explain something. But at the end of the day, these are giant monsters, and they are so deliciously fake that you don't need to try and justify them with science. And in Godzilla versus Kong, they don't try and do that. It's kind of like Godzilla and Kong Skull Island, like they were establishing a bedrock to build something from. And then King of the Monsters was a little bit wobbly, but in Godzilla versus Kong, they kind of found their soul. They kind of figured out what people want from these movies, and it's just to have fun. We know Godzilla's fake. We know Kong's fake. You don't have to try and set it up so that they just seem scientifically plausible.
Mm.
We just want to have fun with these characters, and I think that's what Legendary has ultimately come to with these.
So you do think it's been a fun film?
Oh yeah, it's been hilarious, great ride. It's fantastic.
Okay, I agree that everything that you said about King of the Monsters, about the whole message, and they've just thrown everything in the kitchen sink in. So it's just a spectacle, isn't it? They're just trying to appease everyone. And while it was a really good film, had fun watching it. It wasn't as fun, was it? It wasn't as light-hearted as Godzilla vs Kong. But I found Kong equally as fun. Whereas I know you're saying it was more like the original Godzilla, or Godzilla 2014.
Kong was more fun. I mean, like Kong Skull Island, that's what we're talking about, folks.
Yeah.
But it's more fun, certainly. I mean, like, unlike in Godzilla's Blu-ray release, the initial one, like you can see what's going on in Kong Skull Island throughout the entire film. But in that, I mean, and part of the joy of that film is that you see things going on in broad daylight.
Yeah, that's
Like
another thing. It's the Kong films, so the Godzilla vs Kong and Kong are so much brighter.
Mm.
It's not these dark, moody scenes. This is just again
finally
like
out in the sunlight. They're
yeah,
finally out.
it's
Yeah.
bright light. It's colourful.
That iconic moment in Kong Skull Island where you have all of the helicopters flying along and you got that blazing sun and the silhouette of Kong on the horizon. It's like he's there. There's no kind of confusion
That's
over what you're looking at.
Brilliant cinematography.
Oh, it's
great. Yeah.
it's stunning. And I think that both 2014 and 2019 Godzilla films were criticized quite heavily for you can barely see what's going on, which I didn't fully agree with. I felt that it was a little bit in the same kind of vein as when you had the final season of Game of Thrones with the Night King, everyone saying, oh, you can't see what's going on. It's like, well, no, because your TV's rubbish. Just turn the brightness up. But however, these two films are very dark. So does Godzilla vs. Kong, correct that? Because the trailers that I saw, it looked incredibly bright and vivid.
Yeah, it is incredibly bright and vivid. Without
You see
going into any spoilers.
You see what's going on. I mean, if you've seen any of the trailers, you know that they fight in Hong Kong. And the trailers show that really colorful, backlit atmosphere by the nature of just like how much neon there is in that city. And while they're fighting, again, you can see this in the trailer. I don't feel like this is spoiling, but I mean, you see all these different colors being like shown upon them. Like one side of Godzilla's head will be purple and the other will be green, or like whatever, but they are lit. You can see the texture, where they are. It's fun. Again, it's kind of like Pacific Rim was, because Pacific Rim, they had a fight in Hong Kong, and it's just like all those colors with Gypsy Danger and I think it was Otachi. It's just, you have a ton of fun like watching just all the mayhem that's being exhibited, because you have like all the chairs falling out of the buildings. They went in depth that far. You get to see like just leaping around, smashing through buildings. It's a great time. It's very satisfying to watch.
Let's take our first break and we're going to go spoiler heavy in a moment. Welcome back to the second part of this episode of Kaiju Curry House. We are releasing this as a special episode dedicated to the brand new, just released Godzilla vs. Kong. Just a warning, folks, this will now be a spoiler heavy section, so if you do not want to hear any spoilers, feel free to turn off, but not before you have followed us on Twitter. Thank you, we love you. Joe, we're doing this, we're going in spoiler heavy. That's it.
Godzilla kicked Kong's ass, and it made me so happy. I came in wanting to see one thing, and I was rewarded not once, but twice. He kicks his ass on the boat. He kicks his ass in the city. He takes an axe to the face, and he gets right back up again. Woo! You guys were all thinking about this mega slugger that Kong suddenly found. Oh, no, folks. Took it right to the noggin, came right after him. And you know what? He bit his toe to add insult to injury. Kong's got like a dislocated shoulder. He's scuttling away on his back. Godzilla bites his toe. I mean, like, there was just no sympathy. Then he stands on his chest and he tells him off, and he goes, "That's right." Then he walks away. Kong tries to get up, but no, he falls over. Talk about it, folks. I have been waiting 2 decades of my life for this, and it finally happened. John, I win. I win. Not bitter, though.
He didn't actually beat Kong, did he?
Oh, he kicked his ass.
So,
You stand on top of him, roar in his face, turn your back and walk away, and then Kong tries to get up to, to continue the fight, and then falls apart in a shamble and then nearly dies. They had to jumpstart his heart. I'd count that as a win. And then the first time he had to play dead. To
be fair, Kong was on the water. He doesn't stand a chance.
Oh, this is another great thing about this.
I mean, that's just cruel.
I have been wanting to see Godzilla, the water monster, act like a croc or an ambush water predator for how long? He finally does. It was great. I mean, like, we've never seen Godzilla really fight in the water before. We had snippets in King of the Monsters. We're fighting Ghidorah underwater. That wasn't, I mean, like, you saw nothing. And then it cuts away to these people. Godzilla versus Kong, one of the great things it doesn't cut away from Kong or Godzilla. It cuts to Kong or Godzilla, but it doesn't show the people. It's like, no. We don't want to see the talking heads. We want to see Godzilla and Kong. We want to see the axe to the face. We want to see the glowy lizard. Show us the fight. And it does. Yes, he won. I was happy.
So, Paul, my mild-mannered British, I now challenge you to speak with that, even a shred of that passion.
God, yeah.
Can I just pause this? No. I'm wearing one of these smartwatches that measures my heartbeat. It thinks that I've just ran 3 blocks. So that's how passionate I am.
Oh, okay. Well, let's say, so Kong, poor Kong, he's drugged. Okay, he's been sedated, chained to a boat. He's in the middle of the ocean. And Godzilla just comes along, knocks him upside down. So he's now drowning and chained. And sedated. So yes, of course Godzilla beats him. He doesn't stand much of a chance. And one of the best bits in that fight is when Godzilla's going up to him and Kong just headbutts him. He just smacks him right in the face. Godzilla goes down, Kong gets up. Loved that moment. Loved it. So I think round one, Godzilla did win, but to be fair, Kong was on a boat and he was drugged and he was chained.
That could have.
So I don't feel that Godzilla
was the
really
berry
deserves a
juice.
massive praise.
It was the berry juice, man. Are you saying?
There was no berry juice. Kong had been on a boat for what, 2 days? Heavily sedated. No, that's unfair.
I feel like if there was a bar fight and one person was heavily inebriated and the other person was mostly sober, you couldn't say the next day, yeah, but one person was drunk, it wasn't a fair fight. If there's a scrap, there's been a scrap. And I think...
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, to be fair, this scrap quotations, was like The Rock walks into this pub and the local pissant picks a fight. Okay? Like, this was intense. So you know that scene in the trailer, Kong's leaping off the boat. They don't show you what happens afterwards. You see, like, Godzilla, he wasn't playing. There were some scorched butt cheeks on that one because it does one of those King of the Monsters things where it goes right up into the clouds and you can see it for miles. That was meant to really cause some damage. And then, like, he really wasn't playing fair. Wrapped his tail around Kong when he did jump in the water
him down.
and dragged him down into the abyss. Oh,
That's very cool.
I just like how Joe's gloating here about who won, whereas Paul's basically calling for like anti-doping in the Olympics. You know, no, I want to see them drug tested. I want to know that both people are in peak physical condition. Otherwise, no match. It's void.
I feel it's a bit of an unfair advantage. That's all. But I mean, let's say, to be fair,
it was an unfair advantage. It was monkey versus nuclear death dragon.
Well, yeah, there's that as well. Godzilla can just fire infinite amount of radioactive energy from his mouth. He could go on land and underwater. He is a beast. But you know what? Watching this film, all I wanted was for Kong to win.
Why?
Because I love this film. I love Kong in this film. This is a Kong. Yeah, this feels like a follow-up to Kong. Because Kong, I was attached to Kong and the little girl whose name I can't remember.
Yeah, Kong signs. And there's a lot of empathy for Kong because Kong I say he signs. He signs.
He goes like
word.
Home.
He can only sign home. But apparently he comprehends.
But he understands.
So, yeah. So like Kong's there. And like one of the things that I found, like really tugging the heartstrings, they're trying to get Kong to go into Hollow Earth to find this radioactive substance to power a certain large mecha we all know and love. And I was just thinking like, wow, this is King Kong Escapes. And they're trying to get him to go down this hole, which looks so inviting. It's like a giant sphincter into Antarctica. And anyways, it's like the little girl's just like, go down there. Kong's like, I'd rather risk it in the cold. I don't trust you people. You put me next to the death lizard last time. This ain't happening again. So she's just like, your family might be down there. And he's like, oh. And then off he goes. But it's just like, that was really wholesome. Like, your family might be down there, and you like see it in his eyes. Like, this Kong, short of Andy Serkis in Peter Jackson's King Kong, is the most expressive Kong on screen that you're going to find. And it was really nice to see that they put so much effort into his eyes, his facial expressions, his body language. And to a degree, because we are primates, we're going to pick up more on that simian body language. But they really did a great job with that. And all through the movie, it is Kong's story. You're sympathizing with him. He is the anchor point of this film for the human characters, for the most part. And you do root for him, and you do want him to be okay. I'm a Kong fan, generally. I didn't want him to win this fight because I've seen enough underdogs win. Batman and Superman, that's the other example that I was really miffed at. It's just like, Batman didn't win that fight. Like, Superman didn't want to have it. But it's just like, if Superman wanted to like own somebody, he could. But in this, it's like they really went after each other, and I'm glad that they did. But at the same time, it's just like, you don't want Kong to walk away from this dead. You want him to live.
There you go.
So, like, to stress the point earlier, I've not seen this, but I don't mind about spoilers.
Godzilla wins.
One will fall.
They both fall, and they both walk away at the end.
Okay, and I'm guessing that it's one will fall because Mechagodzilla dies.
Yeah, I guess that's
Did he
the one that
die?
fell.
Mechagodzilla didn't die.
Well, he got chopped to bits by Kong.
No, he just got deactivated.
Kong kicked his ass.
But
Yeah.
one will deactivate, doesn't
Well,
quite right, does it?
not
But
a
see,
great tagline.
the whole thing with Mechagodzilla. So, Alex, you might not know this, but
No.
what's controlling Mechagodzilla is actually Ghidorah, the remains of
Hmm.
Ghidorah. They've got
Okay.
Ghidorah's skull in a lab, and it's hooked up. It looks like a DJ booth, to be fair.
Nice.
They even say it in the movie.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Ghidorah that ultimately takes control of Mechagodzilla. Now, Ghidorah isn't in Mechagodzilla when he's discombobulated, but Ghidorah is just a skull with a whole bunch of stuff connected to it in a sense. So, but it's kind of neat to see that. I really liked that aspect of it. I want a desk lamp that's a Ghidorah with a whole bunch of LEDs coming out of it now. I thought that was really cool.
So
yeah,
stop you there for a moment. Is the idea basically that like the remaining head of King Ghidorah that we saw?
Kevin. It's Kevin.
Okay,
Right.
Kevin. That we saw
Richard
at
Jordan. Yeah.
that we saw at the end of Godzilla King of the Monsters. That's basically been used in a lab, and what the evil presence in it has enough kind of power, sentience to control Mechagodzilla. Is that the idea?
No, so basically what they're doing is the way they explain it is, so they use a bit of an anatomy lesson here. Ghidorah's heads were so far apart that the nervous system would have had a delay if they'd been talking to each other through regular electrical current of your nervous system. Instead, they were talking to each other telepathically via psionics. So what they do is they use Ghidorah's existing biology, but they plug a human into it. So the Ghidorah conscious element has been taken out, or so they think. And what they do is they plug a human into it, and the human is able to control Mechagodzilla, but in essence, we're using Ghidorah's biological capacities to do it. So when they do find the energy from the Hollow Earth, that's that good stuff that Mechagodzilla needed, they plug Mechagodzilla in, and it has enough power to run around and do stuff. Now, is Ghidorah a clever cookie, and was Kevin waiting all this time to have enough power to go and do its own thing? Maybe, who knows? But the second that Mechagodzilla is capable of wandering off site, Kevin sees his opportunity and goes for it. So he reverses whatever channels there are on the human that's plugged into him, electrocutes the guy, and then assumes control of Mechagodzilla, and then that's when our fight starts.
So he hijacks it effectively.
Yeah.
It's not really hijacking if you are the truck. Like
Okay.
the guys drive in the truck. Ghidorah is what's moving, what's powering the truck.
Yes.
The truck is Mechagodzilla. So Ghidorah is the engine, the guy's behind the wheel, and basically the autopilot takes over.
Okay,
from
yeah.
the manual human driver.
So to kind of draw it to something that I've seen, a bit like when the Evangelions kind of become self-aware and Eva Unit 1 kind of goes into
Totally.
berserk
There you
mode.
go. There
Is
you
that a
go.
fair comparison?
Exactly that.
Okay,
Pretty much.
yeah. Fair enough. And what was the kind of the delivery of Mechagodzilla? Did it look good in the modern setting?
Oh,
No.
it was creepy. It was
Whoa.
awesome.
Right, whoa. Right, go on, Paul. This is a safe space.
No, which was I was a bit disappointed in the design, to be honest. I didn't feel there was much of a build up to him, and then you saw him, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." I preferred the Ready Player One
Okay.
Mecha Godzilla.
Ready Player One had a lot of nostalgia attached to it, and it was absolutely lovely. I will say that it was a brilliant design for Mechagodzilla, and you will not find a Godzilla fan that does not like that Ready Player One design, because it incorporates all the best attributes of every Mechagodzilla that came before it. Whoever designed that guy, brilliant. You have done your homework. You did your job right. This Mechagodzilla, it needed to be something new, and it needed to be a surprise. Now, the route that they went is they tried to make it look like a realistic machine, kind of like the way Jet Jaguar is being portrayed in Godzilla Singular Point. His hands look weird. His joints look a little bit different. I guess I should say. But
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because there's no plating as such. Is there?
Yeah.
It's not. It's all full of holes. Also, it's
yeah, but this Mechagodzilla is designed to be a brawler, isn't it? Like this Mechagodzilla goes in there like a Jaeger and just totally fights these
He does.
kaiju. It's even its hands. So it's kind of like pincers, but we have two claws going in one direction and two other claws similar to thumbs coming up from the bottom of the palm. And those are meant for grasping, for grappling with something. And the whole creature is jointed in such a way that it can move and manipulate its environment and dodge, and it's really great. It is not meant to be a stationary Mechagodzilla. Every Mechagodzilla I feel that came before was a long-range weapon with limited fighting capabilities when it came to hand-to-hand. This thing's a hand-to-hand master, and it can back it up with a lot of artillery and beam goodies, I guess you could call them.
It reminded me of something from a Transformers film. That's the type of design.
In a good way?
Not necessarily in a good way, just that's the type of the style it was.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about it was the hydraulics.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice the hydraulics, Paul?
Well, when he got chopped up, I noticed a lot of liquid flying everywhere. The thing I like most about it is the thrusters. So as you say, so he could quickly move, or he could pull Godzilla along because he's just, he's got a jetpack on him. It's very cool.
He is mahusive, by the way. Yeah. So there's a point when Godzilla and Mechagodzilla are firing their beams. They meet in the middle. Every Godzilla and Mechagodzilla has done it before. We always have this one shot. And he is a head and shoulders taller than Godzilla.
All right.
Okay. A head and shoulders. Like, he is much taller. And when you look at Godzilla and Kong, they do eventually team up versus Mechagodzilla. Each one grabs an arm, and each one doesn't even come up really to the shoulders of it. And Kong is actually, Kong's almost as tall as Godzilla in this film, but Kong can hang off one of the arms and stand on his shoulder, and Mechagodzilla's still standing. It really does have the semblance of a boss battle. It was a fantastic thing to see when they do actually team up.
Yeah, it was a very cool end battle. They said there just wasn't. I didn't feel there was much build up for Mechagodzilla, for the human storyline of explaining this evil corporation, and why it's doing it. It just felt a bit flat. But the fight itself was very cool.
Felt a bit rushed. Could they have taken a lot more time with it? Yeah. Mechagodzilla could have been something that they could have started in Godzilla King of the Monsters, to be fair, and they could have finished up with it in Godzilla versus Kong, and everybody would have been happy.
Yeah.
It's just the backstory, the funding for it. We had a few words at the end of Godzilla King of the Monsters credits, but that ain't enough.
Not much.
It's just, and the main driving system is Kevin, which we didn't even know where he was going at the end of that.
No. Because the film starts off with a podcaster going undercover into this.
Kaiju podcasters, they're the best, man.
He's going, to get the plans and expose the corporation and what it's doing there, and then Godzilla just shows up and starts blowing everything up. It looks fantastic. Godzilla looks pretty demonic. His eyes lit up and just destroying everything. So Godzilla starts off as the bad guy. It looks like. It's very cool.
Right. We will wrap up our second part now. And what I was thinking was, for the final part, let's talk about the future of the MonsterVerse and what our predictions are going forward.
Excellent. Hello and welcome back to the final part of Kaiju Curry House, where we're going to discuss the future of the MonsterVerse. Who wants to go first? Or can I?
You can, Paul. Go for it.
After seeing Godzilla vs. Kong, I want to see more of Kong. Okay, and I think because I believe the license has now expired with Toho, and they'd have to renegotiate. While they're doing that, I don't see why they can't put together another Kong film. Let's explore Hollow Earth. Let's see what kaiju are down there, because there must be a load of cool creatures down there. And let's see some of the other kaiju from King of the Monsters, because they weren't referenced or seen at all in Godzilla vs. Kong. And there's about 10 of them introduced in that film. So I think Legendary has got a lot are things it can do without necessarily having the Godzilla license, but keep, the MonsterVerse rolling.
Joe?
So I'm going to stick with Paul on this one. We need to know more about Hollow Earth. So Netflix has teamed up with Legendary. They're going to be doing a mini-series anime about Kong in the Hollow Earth, and that's been confirmed. I think I've had about my fill of anime and kaiju for the moment. I feel like that keeps being thrust upon us as Western audiences. I know that in Japan, anime is all the rage. That's fine. But I would really like to see live action sequels to this universe. I'd like to see it continuing with live action. And I just want to see more MonsterVerse. And every time I watch these films, I just think, wow, there's just so much lore building that's gone behind every design of every set that they go into. And it's never explained. It never delves deeper. So there's one point where Kong, finds Stormbreaker, Zilla Breaker, if you will, and he's got this thing, and then he sets it down on the floor. And the scene from the trailer that you see is just like the blue Godzilla-esque serpent around what is realistically his throne. So that Godzilla is made up of a bunch of other axes, just like Kong's, if you look closely. And they're all fitted into the floor. Someone carved out a niche so that they fit perfectly into the floor. Kong's throne is carved for a creature of his size. The door is for creatures of his size. The vaulted ceilings in that chamber are all to scale with Kong and his species. Did he make this? Did his species, sorry? Or did human beings? Like, it's never really elaborated on. Obviously, the Titans came to the surface and they were worshipped, but what was going on in Hollow Earth? I mean, like, there's a whole civilization that may not be human that took place in this Hollow Earth, and that's just a fantastic area for lore building. Obviously, Kong's species came into contact with Godzilla's species long ago because you have all these axes laid out. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hostile one, although that's where they took it. But there are just so many other creatures as well that we saw in that brief introduction to it. We saw the flying snakes, the war bats, we saw the hawk bats, and we saw like a couple of crustaceans that were coming up out of a lava field. We basically saw Minya and this giant lizard that was eating the crustaceans. It was just so cool to see all these things. And then like the floating rocks, the colors, it kind of reminded me in a sense of Avatar, the James Cameron movie, because there was just so much going on. And I guess the floating rocks didn't help, but you could do so much with that space. And it seems such a pity to waste it. And additionally, you could do the civilization that was worshiping the Titans on the surface as another film. You could do Godzilla BC, and you could do Kong Hollow Earth, and you could follow these up. You don't even necessarily have to focus on those two characters. But yeah.
What tone would the two of you want another MonsterVerse film to take, though?
I think there's room to go every which way. Depending on, you can have different directors with their own take. You can have one that's really dark and creepy. You can have like a Shin Godzilla feel, and you can have others that are just like Kong and bright and friendly. There's so many creatures and so many stories that you could have. I don't see why they can't just cherry pick the right director and screenplay for whichever project they fancy.
My take on that is that if you look at each of the 4 films that they put out for this MonsterVerse, each one has a different color palette and a different feel.
Mm-hmm.
So in Godzilla, we have a dark color palette, and it's kind of like a thriller, isn't it? It's like a science fiction thriller almost that ends in a kaiju battle. Then we have Kong Skull Island, which has a bright orangish color palette, and it's a survivalist film. Like, we are trying to get off an island. It's an escape picture, isn't it? Like, we're trying to escape from this island. Then we have Godzilla King of the Monsters, and dark blue, like blue. That's how you could sum that movie up. It is blue.
Yeah.
And that is just an epic. It's just like a kaiju epic. They've thrown everything in. It's Return of the King without necessarily the other 2 films to back it up. And then we have Godzilla versus Kong, And I mean, like, it's multicolored, it's neon lighting. I mean, like, this is the Thor Ragnarok of the MonsterVerse. Like, they use the music, the synthesizers. There is synthesizer music in this. I thought that was brilliant. But it is Thor Ragnarok when you think about it for the MonsterVerse. And each one of these films has had its own distinct feel, its own distinct motivations. So you could argue that there are different films for different audiences. And a lot of what people have been saying and critics have been saying is like, how did this film franchise take off when others, such as the Dark Universe, didn't? And I think that's because each film was meant to be kind of a standalone picture. It's its own flavor, it's its own being, albeit they all link up in the end. So how would I prefer to see a Kong Hollow Earth picture take place? I would love to see kind of like an Indiana Jones vibe going through with this, like find an artifact, lost civilizations, what have you, booby traps, kaiju-sized booby traps, who knows? But it just has that possibility to be so fun. Whereas with, like the Godzilla kaiju worshipping terrestrials, like on the surface, I would really like to see something that's akin to like Stargate. Like here we had an advanced civilization like BC, and they had Titans, and they were worshiping Titans, and they were interacting with them. That would be awesome. And obviously they had architectural capabilities far beyond that of like what was going on in Egypt at the time. So like I said, like you have different takes for what you could go for.
Oh, I could see it, not necessarily exactly the same, but do you remember Terra Nova, that TV series, where they're like setting up camp in the prehistoric?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have that, because I mean they're going to get an outpost in Hollow Earth. I don't see why they couldn't do a TV series kind of to explain the lore.
Oh yeah, of course they could. I mean, like that, humans living amongst dinosaurs, prehistoric creatures, like smaller kaiju.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. And like again, you have so much opportunity. You could even put graboids in it, Paul.
Who's to say that's not where they originated from?
You have a gold mine of opportunity here, and I do think that Legendary isn't going to just put down this franchise, because at the moment Godzilla vs. Kong is doing so well. It's looking to be the highest earning film of the pandemic era. So
That doesn't say much though. How much do we know how well it is performing financially?
At the moment, it's over 200 million.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Which is quite respectable considering this is its opening weekend time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like in theory, it could only get better once cinemas open up and people want to see it on a larger screen. One thing I will say about this film is it screams to be seen on a larger screen, and I really want to see it in 3D. There are moments when they're flipping around in those heaves. It's really funny because they make vomiting jokes inside a flying apparatus that they call a heave. Hollow Earth aerial vehicle, I think is what they're called. But yeah, don't heave while you're on the heave. But while you're flying around to that, you got a lot of great point of view shots, like zipping past Kong's head, flying around Godzilla's beam. And if that was in 3D, it'd be spectacular. There are scenes when Godzilla's coming up out of bays, like in Pensacola, or no, not Pensacola, Hong Kong, where he knocks over a bridge and you have cars falling right in front of you. It'd be so much fun to see that in IMAX or on a 3D screen. And I think people are going to flock to cinemas, once this thing ends. And I think Godzilla vs. Kong could see, a second breath when it hits cinemas and people can go and see it in those formats.
So what is there to stop the MonsterVerse continuing? Is it just literally licensing at the moment?
It's just licensed. Yeah, I mean, so it's not even MonsterVerse.
Licensing.
It's just Godzilla, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any Toho. They can carry on with all the ones they've created themselves. They can carry on with Kong, from what I understand. It is just Godzilla and
because
Rodan.
presumably like the Mutos, that has nothing to do with Toho because that's Legendary's intellectual property.
I would say that since this was a mutual deal and they were both coming up with it on both fronts, I'd say that it would be a shared property, the MonsterVerse. So it would be very hard to detassel that. Now, Toho, the folks over there, they're pretty sharp cookies. And I think that they're going to end up continuing the MonsterVerse because they've got an entire Western audience. It's making millions and millions right now, hundreds of millions, and it's popular the world over. I think that it would be a shame not to ride this out because they've got a great wave going with this film. And you might as well make another one just to see if it continues. I mean, that's as a business person, that's what I would see them doing.
So would you say Toho would say, yeah, we'll give you a single film deal and see how that goes? Or would they get another 3-picture deal? Or, how long do you think Toho would sign on for?
I could envision 1 or 2 more films, certainly. I mean, they're not doing it like the Avengers. They aren't mapping it out to all of our knowledge as far out as like what Marvel did.
Yeah.
But they are certainly having fun with it. And I think as long as these films continue to attract an audience and to make money, they're going to continue making them. That's the one thing that we've seen for certain that Toho does with Godzilla. So why they would end a successful franchise, I don't know.
Well, I think it is time for us to wrap up this episode. Why don't we give our own personal recommendations? As I understand it, we've all watched this on Amazon Prime, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, if nothing else, go on to Amazon Prime and pay your rental fee. You keep it for 48 hours, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's 16 quid all in, and you get Godzilla.
Oh, no, you've got 30 days to watch it, but once you start it, you have
that's
48
it.
hours to
to watch it.
viewing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you watch as many times as you like within those 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's available, on Amazon and Rakuten and Chile and pretty much everywhere. I think we'll have it.
Yeah.
Do we have any other recommendations?
Kingdom Kong and Godzilla Dominion, which are the prequel comics by Legendary, are coming out in the next few days. On Amazon, they're about 13 quid. And they do set up the story, just ahead of Godzilla versus Kong. They've got some great art in them. Some titans, such as Behemoth, do make appearances. We've been shown snippets. And I'd say pick them up and give them a read. They look to be interesting, to say the least.
Okay. Yeah, I, as I say, apart from renting this film, I would just say perhaps go back and watch the other ones, get you ready for it. And I wish I kind of built myself up now and watched the films leading up to it. But sadly I didn't.
Yeah, that's my only regret. I think that with it not being available at the cinema in the UK, I kind of stepped off the bandwagon of enthusiasm, whereas if I'd gone to the cinema, I probably would have gone let's say Tuesday, Godzilla 2014, Wednesday, Kong Skull Island, Thursday, King of the Monsters, and then Friday, bam. But, circumstantially. Okay, well, let's wrap things up, guys. And I know what I'm going to be doing. It's going to be watching this film.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, folks, for listening tonight. We hope that you have enjoyed the podcast. Go see Godzilla versus Kong. He's not king yet, I guess. And as always, folks, keep it kaiju.
So, did you enjoy Godzilla vs. Kong?
Uh-huh.
And what was your favourite bit?
When King Kong and Godzilla.
Whoa! Stop! Spoilers! Charlotte, you have to say spoiler alert first. Can you do that for me?
Okay. Spoiler alert.
And now, can you tell us?
Spoiler alert! Oh my goodness!
Now, can you tell us what your favourite bit is?
Yeah. When Godzilla and King Kong were fighting together.
Yes.
Oh,
You like
Daddy
that
make
part?
you say that?
Yeah.
That's good. And do you think that there's going to be another Godzilla movie?
Yeah.
You do? Well, there you go, folks. Okay. So on Twitter, hashtag continue the MonsterVerse. It's been decided by Joe's daughter, Charlotte. That is it, folks. Well, thank you very much, Charlotte. I am glad that we have a professional opinion. Cool. And is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners about Godzilla versus Kong?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Excellent. That's it, isn't it, Paul? We're
That's
wrapping
it. That's all we needed to know.
Yeah. Well, keep it kaiju. Thank you.
Yeah. Go have some more Easter eggs because it doesn't sound like you've had enough yet.
I think best guest so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right.